It's all about shortcuts, and we live in a society where there's this intense underlying focus on compressing time frames, doing things faster, and we start to become impatient in the process. We start to expect things to happen faster than they should. But anything that's worth it, it takes hard work. I've talked a lot about fitness the last, been probably 8 months now or 10 months. And, it's so interesting, the ups and downs mentally even there, I was at the gym for my second session yesterday, and a gal walked up, and one of the guys that was standing there, we had just finished a pretty intense leg workout, and I had said to him, well, you're welcome to join us, and he's like, dude, I can't join you. I mean, we're doing some pretty intense stuff. And then he started talking about how, man, I've got a long ways to go, and it's going to take forever. And one of the guys with me goes, hey, show him your before pics. So I bought the pic.
Makes you feel
like, what? This is you, right? But along the way, you just have to stick with it. Along the way, it's hard to see progress. But if you fast forward, 3 months down the road, you can see progress. You fast forward 6 months down the road, you can see progress. But the key is, anything that's worth it takes hard work. It takes discipline. It takes perseverance, commitment, takes time, and then it's very, very worth it. Any other recipe that you try to embrace in life is going to ultimately just mean that you end up settling. How many of you saw my Facebook post yesterday or my Instagram post yesterday? Any of you guys see that one? So I'll read this. Son Gavin made the greatest quote of all time yesterday while I was with him.
I'm not wrong.
Yeah, especially for the world I'm in now. We're driving along, taking him to a party, and he's going to a party. He's been invited by a girl that he said, Dad, I'm pretty sure she digs on me because she's been acting really weird. He's 10, And I said, of course she digs on you, man. You're a stud. He kind of smiles, and then just randomly he goes, Dad, girls are so unpredictable.
10.
Really, son? I think you're the only one to ever see that.
Don't ever forget that.
Big conclusions by 10-year-olds. Girls are very unpredictable. Not quite as good as his greatest quote of all time. Why are boobs so intriguing? That might be the greatest quote ever. To which the response is, son, nobody knows. But if you can answer that, you've just solved one of the greatest mysteries of the world. So, innocent comments by a 10-year-old. So here's my post, and I think it just fits well into where we're at. It's entitled "Avoid Regret, Become a Regret Killer." We've all had regrets. I hate it. The only way to hate it is to experience it. Unfortunately, I believe the key is vulnerability. Without vulnerability to hurt or rejection or failure, we also give up the chance at complete and deep fulfillment, whether it's in a relationship or an opportunity. Holding back because we're scared means we inevitably will end up settling. Being willing to put yourself out there takes courage, but it's worth it when you finally end up with the career or the relationship you always wanted. You may not always get another chance at something, so be careful. Who knows, maybe it's just timing. I know in business it's definitely timing. You just have to be in constant pursuit of the best version of yourself and keep taking chances. 20 years ago I was engaged and deeply in love. Things were broke off with no real explanation. I was hurt beyond anything I'd ever experienced. I acted out of hurt and didn't really fight for the relationship, but really just kind of walked away. I didn't get vulnerable and I didn't take a chance. I regretted that very much. The following 6 months were very difficult. Then I was given a second chance about a year or so later, and I took it. I called her up, asked her out again. It was scary because you don't want to get hurt. And again, I made my feelings with her the second time, though, very clear, and my desire to see her again, and she said yes, and we set up a date. Believe it or not, the next day she canceled again. By the way, this was a side note because I think she sees this post and so does her mom and sisters. By the way, I've never had bad feelings towards her. She was, and I'm sure she's still a beautiful person. But anyway, I was crushed again, but not as much as the first time. What was the difference?
That you took the chance and you put it out there.
Yeah, because I feel like I did everything I could this time. The last time, what I regretted was what?
Not fighting for it.
Not fighting, not putting myself out there, not being vulnerable, not taking a chance, right? The first time I kind of let my ego get in the way. It's like, you're gonna break off an engagement 3 weeks before the wedding, and that immediate, feelings, I let that prevail. And so I didn't say, hey, let's, instead I kind of just, let my ego and my hurt feelings control the scenario. The difference, let's see. I was crushed again, but not as much as the first time, because without regret, it didn't feel as bad. I even showed up to her wedding reception, believe it or not, a year or two later, and I felt great, and I was genuinely happy for her and her lucky husband. The difference was no regrets the second time. I changed that experience changed my life, and I became a regret killer. In business, it served me well. I had plenty of doubts, fears, and rejections along the way. Over and over and over again, I just never quit. Don't ever settle. Go for it and take a chance. Put yourself out there, and you'll eventually love where and who you end up with in life. So, a lot of times what happens is we get some rejection, things don't go our way, things aren't happening the way we want it to, and we take that as we get caught up in the current pain instead of focusing on the future results. So what you need to do is disconnect from the current pain and the current discomfort, and like Kevin started, focus on the future vision of what you're aiming at. It's just so interesting how weak we are mentally, and I'm just going to be blatantly honest. The only difference between you and I at this point is mental toughness. And maybe you're there, but we'll only know it when we see the fruits of your labors. We'll only know it when we see the results, right? So maybe something's happened to you recently, and you've decided, you know what, there's no more looking back for me. I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. I'm just going to keep pursuing the best me, and I'm going to move forward. Maybe you've already made that decision. And if you have, that's amazing, fantastic, and that's huge. But you're still going to have ups and downs. It's the only difference is you won't let it stop you. That's all the difference is in the world between success and failure, is the people that succeed do it anyways. They have the same feelings, but it affects them a little bit less because they're putting it all out there. Because they've already made a decision that they're never gonna stop and they're never gonna quit. So when you make that total commitment, it makes the challenges easier, because when you add challenges along with questioning what your commitment level is, it always makes things more difficult. When you're constantly trying to decide if you're in or out, if you're gonna move forward or not, but then you also have the challenges, it just makes the challenges deeper, it makes them more difficult. You're constantly having to sort of argue and have these debates in your mind about what's going on and what's important and what you want and what you don't want. Once you make the decision and you commit and you stick with something, it becomes a lot easier, because that decision is now put aside and you can focus on progress. So I'm telling you, that's a huge, huge factor. And so even with my fitness pursuit right now, I think last time I kind of updated you on some of you know what's going on more than others, but my competition, bodybuilding competition, is October 12th, and I added 16 pounds in about 5-6 weeks. It's a lot of weight to add. Huge calorie intake, huge protein, gym twice a day, and it plays games with your head, because you go from being more defined and kind of feeling like you've made a lot of progress, then you put on all this weight and it starts to jack with your head. You start to go, man, I'm going backwards. You're still putting in all the work, you're still putting in all the effort, it's a ton of discipline, sacrifice, hard work, but you're not seeing the results. In the last 11 days, I dropped 11 pounds because of the switch to 10 weeks out, and now you're going back to calorie deficit and prepping for trying to get more defined, that type of thing. And it's amazing the difference in mindset from feeling no decision ever of I'm quitting. It's just not in the process. Through this business, I've learned to make a one-time decision to commit to something and not ever go back. And that makes it easier. So when I decided I was going to do this competition, it was a one-time decision. Not like, yeah, I'm going to do this, and then it's tough, a week later, and then you go, yeah, I'm probably not going to do this. That doesn't happen. So 11, 12 days ago, I'm feeling like, well, this kind of sucks. Is this really going to work out? But I'm still going to show up twice a day. I'm still going to, follow the exact plan. And then it's amazing how 11 days later you're like, yeah, I live better now, and so I feel better. It's an emotional roller coaster. In business, what'll happen is it's not about look better, it's about you're getting paid, or you have a guest show up, or you get a recruit, or you make a sale, or you help someone get licensed, or whatever your business objective is, but you get a positive outcome that comes in, and all of a sudden you feel better. Your feelings will follow the results, so if you're not doing what it takes to get positive results, then you're naturally not going to feel good. You're going to be dragging. The more difficult stage is the one before the results, when you're doing all the work but you're not seeing the results, and so your emotions are kind of volatile. You're kind of up and down. That's why you need to consistently focus on the vision of where you're headed, what you're going to do in the future. Focus on the long term, and don't get focused on the current pain. Get focused on the future result, right? And that helps a ton in the process. If you're, again, if you're at the gym and you're like, well, I'm going to stop this because it hurts. What are you stopping?
Growth.
You're stopping growth. You can't grow. You've heard the statement. What is it? No pain, no gain, right? Everyone's heard that. Is it true? It is.
Only in certain circumstances.
You have
Bad
to.
pain is.
Yeah, that could be a problem.
If you're lifting wrong,
Yeah. Yeah, don't hurt yourself.
You have to do things right.
But you have to tear the muscle down in order to grow. That's the way it works. It's how muscles grow, right? And it's interesting. My trainer and I were having a conversation. Of course, he's a beast, right? 6'3" or 4", 240 pro bodybuilder. He's a freaking mountain, right? And we were talking about how in the past I've worked out consistently, but I often avoided the couple of areas that I didn't like doing. Legs and abs. Legs and abs. And my justification was, well, I play soccer and I'm active, so I don't really need to pound the legs. But he and I were talking about it, and he said stuff that is so relevant. The legs are the biggest muscle group to work out, right? And if you avoid the legs, you'll never see big gains in other parts of your body. You actually have to work the legs, believe it or not, to see gains in your full body composition. And so avoiding the things you don't want to do. And then something really interesting happened to me for the first time in my life, only like maybe 4 weeks ago. But by doing, instead of avoiding the abs, switching to doing abs and cardio 7 days a week, weight 6 days a week, I hit this weird point that I just should have known would happen, but based on other experiences in life, but I just never thought, I hit a point where it used to be, prior to doing abs consistently, I would do ab work, and then you hit a point where literally your abs just fail. Like, it hurts so much, you just can't do another rep. And so you stop. A few weeks ago, just doing them more consistently, 7 days a week, just constantly working it, continue to push. I hit that interesting thing that you probably hit in physically in other areas. I hit that second win, which you never would have thought was the same thing. I just thought maybe the muscle tissues are different, maybe it just works different with your abs. But I was doing reps and got to that same kind of pain threshold where it's like, I can't do any more. But somehow barely was able to just continue to push. And several reps later, it changed, and you kind of just got the second, burst of ability. And then it's been that way ever since. And so it just, how does that correlate to business? Well, there's certain things you're just going to have to do and push through, some discomfort, some pain, some opposition. And eventually you'll find out that you were capable of pushing through and doing more than you thought you would. But it's being successful in the business side is a lot like muscle development. You have to continue to do relentless repetitions over a period of time in order to gain strength to advance yourself forward, right? And so the same thing is here. It is the same exact thing. I believe in a God, and for me a specific one. But I believe that all things are subject to natural laws that are established. And so what works in the physical body in exercise and fitness also works in faith. It also works in business. These are universal truths. So anything that's worth it takes sacrifice, hard work, and some pain, but it'll be worth it. And if you keep trying to convince yourself that there's an easier way, that somehow, you're going to watch an infomercial at 3 a.m. and it's going to change your life, and you're going to be a millionaire by Tuesday, it's not going to be worth it. It's likely not going to work. It's better to fix yourself on this idea that anything that's really worth it's going to take hard work and discipline and commitment over a period of time. Isn't that true with relationships? True with fitness, true with business, true with anything, right? And so when things are difficult, look at it as you are working your entrepreneurial muscles. You are developing your emotions and your mentality so that you can be more fit and have more stamina and continue to move forward. And you'll love what happens, right? But it's gonna take that time. So where are we at on the big commitment? We're about to leave town for, a big conference. We know most of us are gonna be out of the game for, 5 days or so. So where are we at for presets? What does that look like, Kevin?
4.
4, and your goal is
15 to
15.
25.
So your plan is to continue to make more calls today. What
I got
else?
3 day I'm trying to set up. Yesterday I was 1 short. I had 2 starting yesterday, but I planned on 3 a day until I go, or
And
until I
then-
get down there.
And then you'll just continue to make calls even when you're down there if you need to.
Right, whatever I gotta do.
Okay. Don, how you looking?
I'm at 3, but I set up 2 for Monday and Tuesday too. So,
Okay.
But I'm in the same boat. I'm just trying to get 2 to 3 day, getting new numbers, and I'll be calling while I'm there.
Yeah. Jason?
I have 2,
Okay.
but 4 one-on-ones from the efforts this
That's
week.
fantastic.
Yeah.
It's amazing what happens when we just kind of get a little bit focused, right? And I will say this, if you have one-on-ones in those new mixes, that, let's say you have one that you feel like you could maybe use some help on, feel free to text me days and times. And if my schedule permits, I'll jump in and do some of these appointments the next few weeks. Particularly easier if it's Mondays, Thursdays, Saturday morning or afternoons when I don't have my boys, my kids. Those are easier times. Right before the meeting here Wednesday night. So there's quite a bit of availability. What gets difficult is the probably the most difficult day is Tuesdays because I'm typically down in South Jordan, and weekends where I have my boys, but that's every other weekend. So I have them right now, and then next weekend I won't, but we'll be at convention. I'll have them the weekend after. But if you have ones that you feel like would be good to have help with, or you just want to see you want to get some refresher, then shoot me a text and I'll do my best to see if we can correlate schedules a little bit. And let's use this time of presets to capture some new momentum. Let's get some momentum and then let's keep it.
If you've got someone that's a fair amount of money, is it better to try and have them come here or to go to their house if they've met with 3 or 4 different people and they've gone to the business every time? Is that something where you'd want to try and change it and go sit down with them at their place, or?
It's a good question. Let me tell you the difference in psychology. If someone comes here to the office, it usually can tell you a couple things. One, it tells you that they're serious about looking, and so that could be helpful because that they wouldn't take time out of their schedule and come if they weren't. But going to a business is typically a bad idea. To me, it's typically the worst of the scenarios because why?
They're distracted.
They're distracted. There's too many things happening, and it's just difficult to connect very well that way. It's great to go to their house because you can build a relationship and you can connect with somebody on a human level. You can see their life. You can look for things that you can connect with. Is there a wrong place? No. But you're going to learn different things in different environments.
Is there a better place?
Sometimes if you're bringing, if you're trying to edify me, for instance, and you're saying to them, hey, I got this big shot, and this guy's been doing this for 20 years, the advisory council, you know, you share those things. And then we break our necks and go out of our way to go meet with them at their home or something like that. Sometimes some people look at that as, well, he must not be that big of a big shot because he's coming to me. They don't see it as, oh, this is a good guy and he's trying to, you know,
Well, that's why I was wondering if it's better to go there or bring them here, because to me, in the past when we brought them here, to some of them it felt like it was pretty important that they had your time and that it was
Yeah.
here and they saw what was going on.
there's usually more credibility
That's, yeah, I guess
if they
that's.
come here. Worst places at their office. But if you can only get it done one way or the other, then take what you can get and you try to deal with the rest. I don't think any of that's a deal breaker, it's just a slight edge depending on which option you choose. Jason and I had to go to this one place of business because the dude is just so difficult to deal with. And even going to his business was tough. But good guy, but just busy all over the place and hard to nail down, you know. But even going there to the business, it wasn't too bad. I feel like when we went there and met with him, there wasn't a lot of distractions. And then we went and met with a dentist at the office in the lobby a couple of times. And you just kind of feel like they're not all in it. They're kind of distracted by what's going on. People come in and so their eyes are constantly moving. Luckily the dentist is the type of guy where he just kind of does stuff without thinking. So
I'm just gonna drill.
So-
Wrong tooth.
So I'm just, every time I've dealt with him, I've just been like, well, this is what you need to do, and he's like, okay. So it just doesn't take a lot of analyzing with that guy, but yeah, so.
We must have a bad habit of that, because we went up to a construction site once too.
Yeah, that's right, we did. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Hopefully we can get back in there, it's probably about time.
Yeah.
So, but I would also say about big cases, and I know you don't have this problem, I don't think anyone here really does, but it's just worthy of pointing out. You know, half of something's better than all or nothing. Particularly you get a big case and there's a lot on the line. You know, if you don't feel confident that you can get it nailed down, bring in help and get it done. You know, so, but yeah, the fact is just get it set up and go from there. But you know, it's kind of nice to go to somebody's house because, you know, when I walk in, I'm looking, you know, do we have things in common that we can talk about? Are there things here, you know, I can connect with? Can I talk about their kids? You know, you basically, and this is another just side note, I don't know if you've ever put two and two together on this before, but if I say form to you, what comes to mind immediately if I say form?
Getting to know somebody
Okay,
before you.
what else?
Family.
Okay, it's the acronym,
Yeah.
family, occupation, recreation.
Message.
In a lot of cases, you just use that as a technique for prospecting, for getting to know new, you know, people in the marketplace. But it's also a great one to follow for brief, you know, small chat when you go to somebody's house and you're meeting them for the first time. You'll often see me forming people. Ask about their family, ask about their occupation, ask about recreation. The other one that I often use is also helpful for dating, by the way, form people. What I also
I hope I don't
use,
need that.
what I also use if I'm getting to know somebody is I use the 5 F's. So I'm talking about faith, family, fitness, finance, and fun. Because a lot of times, you know, it can be you're meeting somebody for the first time out in business or a date, heaven forbid, and it's hard to know what to say and to get to know somebody. So if you've got that to fall back on, it makes for great conversation.
people love to talk about themselves, though. You start bringing up a lot of people's family and what they love to do, they go forever.
Yeah. So, so I think if you want to increase your ability to connect with people, remember to form people in that initial relationship process. All right?
Sweet.
Okay. Awesome. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.